The Fox 61 News at 6 starts now.
Glad it's a test.
I know, at first I thought it wasn't too, but I was like, that's definitely not what my script says.
See, our characters in that room, they're always playing.
The trio accused in the death of 11-year-old Jacqueline Mimi Torres Garcia are back in court. I'm Alicia Hercules. Coming up, I'll share what one of the suspects chose to waive and what that means for the future of their case.
And a major shakeup for Connecticut cities and towns. New rules could change where affordable housing gets built. We'll tell you what this means for your community next.
It's official. Governor Ned Lamont is seeking re-election for a third term, and he kicked off his campaign with a tour across the state. I'm Jamel Johnson. Coming up, I'll tell you what issues he plans to focus on should he be voted back in office.
The Fox 61 News at 6 starts now.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for the Fox 61 News at 6. I'm Annette Montgomery. In the ongoing case surrounding the death of 11-year-old Jacqueline Mimi Torres Garcia, all three suspects charged in her murder appeared in court today. In front of a judge, Mimi's mother opted to skip a critical hearing. Fox 61's Alicia Hercules has what that means for the next steps.
While two of the suspects were given the option to waive their probable cause hearing, it was only Mimi's mother, Carla Garcia, who decided to.
Yes. And Attorney Mansfield tells me that you wish to waive that hearing. Is that correct? Yes.
This was our first look at Carla Garcia since her initial hearing 1 month ago. As she returned to the courtroom, she chose to waive her probable cause hearing. This means she voluntarily gave up her right to have a judge determine if there is enough evidence to proceed with the criminal case. Jonathan Nanita was given the same choice but asked for more time to make the decision. The third person charged, Mimi's aunt Jacqueline Garcia, has entered a not guilty plea. Joining the three in court were Mimi's loved ones, wearing sweatshirts with her face on them. Carla Garcia and Anita have been charged with several offenses, including murder with special circumstances and risk of injury to a child. In addition to those charges, Nanita was also charged with tampering with physical evidence and violation of legal requirements regarding the disposition of a body. Jacqueline Garcia has been charged with several offenses, including unlawful restraint of a child and intent cruelty to a child. According to arrest warrants, Mimi died in the family's Farmington home back in September of 2024. Her body was then kept in the basement of the home and moved with them when they moved to New Britain. Documents show her body was placed in a plastic bin and put in a car before eventually being put in the backyard of the abandoned home. The Office of the Medical Examiner of Connecticut says Mimi's cause of death was fatal child abuse with starvation. The manner of death was homicide. Nanita is expected back in court on December 16th, and Carla Garcia is expected back in court on December 19th. In Torrington, Alicia Hercules, Fox 61.
Thank you, Alicia. And we have this full story on Mimi's murder investigation online at fox61.com, the free Fox 61 News app, and Fox 61 Plus, our free streaming service. You can download it now on your Amazon, Roku, or Apple TVs. A Vernon woman was shot and killed in Rhode Island yesterday. Providence police say they found 29-year-old Morgan Boss shot in the head. Now, she was pronounced dead at the scene, with officials telling us they did arrest a suspect. Any moment now, 26-year-old Kelvin Cruz will be arraigned on domestic murder and firearm charges. Right now, we're working to learn what led up to that shooting. Well, investigators say the human remains they found in Mansfield Hollow Lake last month belong to a man who's now been missing for more than 20 years. State police say Robert Kavanaugh was last seen in December of 2004. Detectives said they believe he left a suicide note around the time he disappeared. Fast forward to October 5th of this year, and Mansfield firefighters found human remains floating in the lake. Throughout the investigation, more remains were found along with a pickup truck in the water. Detectives said they found Kavanaugh's license plate, with the chief medical examiner's office identifying the remains as Kavanaugh's. It appears this case is not criminal and it is now closed. Well, I heard it's going to be dry for this weekend, Sam, just with a slight chance of rain Saturday. So let's bring in meteorologist Sam Samperi with the first check of the forecast.
Annette, we will have rain, but it will be on Saturday night. It's more than a chance. It's going to happen. There's a 90% chance that we'll get that rain. Cold start, and then on your Sunday, check it out. We start out damp, but we're clearing, and we turn cooler throughout the day. We may start out temperatures up into the low 50s as a warm slug of air comes up ahead of the storm system coming at us. 35, though, a chilly 35 in Winsted, the 41 Meriden, down to 47 in New Haven, upper 30s to lower, and the middle 40s. The winds are not a factor, and we have a couple of light sprinkles around, but that's really not a big deal. This snow shower activity is going to die out during the next couple of hours. For us, we're going to clear out overnight into tomorrow morning. Temperatures will drop off in the upper 20s to lower 30s, and for tomorrow we'll have temperatures into the 40s. We'll turn the wind around to the southwest with increasing clouds. Coming up, I will time out the rainfall, how much, and what you can expect into next week in a few minutes. Annette?
Well, just days before her 17th birthday, a New Haven teen died a day after she was thrown off a moped in New Canaan. It happened Monday, with state police saying the teen, along with a 17-year-old boy, were riding on a moped on Route 15 South. They slowed down to get onto the exit 13 ramp, but that's when investigators say the boy lost control of the moped and the girl was thrown off. EMS took her to the hospital, where she died a day later. The boy was not injured, but officials haven't said if he will face charges. Right now, that crash remains under investigation. Well, tonight, as a community is mourning the loss of Dylan Dupuis, who died after a multi-vehicle crash in October. Glastonbury police say charges may be coming. Right now, investigators tell us they're evaluating the circumstances around the crash. On October 24th, detectives say a car traveling on Hebron Avenue lost control while turning on a left-hand curve. The report says the car crashed into another car and then was hit by a second car. The principal of Glastonbury High School says Dylan was a cherished member of the school community. Right now, police have not released how many people were involved in that crash. Superintendent Alberto Vasquez Matos was placed on leave in last night's special meeting. Now Middletown's Board of Education will meet this weekend to pick who will become the acting superintendent of schools. Matos was arrested in July in Hillsborough County, Florida, after being accused of driving under the influence and having more than one license. He pled not guilty back in August. Right now, central office administrators will take over his duties until the Board of Ed hires an acting superintendent. In a late night session that stretched into the overnight hours, state senators passed a sweeping bill focused on expanding housing access in the state. The legislation replaces a bill vetoed by the governor earlier this year. But while it represents a major negotiation, critics say it takes control away from cities and towns. In a major win for Connecticut's affordable housing advocates, the state Senate voted 24-10 on Friday to adopt House Bill 8002. The bill puts in place new rules for cities and towns to build affordable housing units and uses state infrastructure funding as an incentive. Here's how it works. First, the Office of Policy and Management provides municipalities with information on housing needs in their area. Regional councils of governments would then be responsible for setting affordable housing goals for those municipalities. City and town leaders would need to decide if they wanted to create their own housing growth plan, updated every 5 years, or they could opt into a regional plan. Those plans are then submitted to the state for approval. Cities and towns that do not submit plans to the state or join a regional plan would be ineligible for certain types of state funding, while those who do would be able to apply for grants under a new housing growth program. Supporters say it is a major step forward for the state, where housing prices have risen drastically in recent years.
It is time that we move beyond some of our comfortable traditions that have, in a way, I think, held us back from being able to do what we really need to do, which is to promote economic development in the state, to be aggressive about the promotion of housing at all levels of income.
Opponents, however, argue that it represents a major overreach by the state government into local control.
Monumental steps such as this, like ripping up local control in ways we have never seen in decades in this legislature. No monumental bill implemented like that ever conserves itself or contains itself in the iterations and changes we make. It only, almost exclusively, expands.
The bill now heads to the governor's desk for approval. Once signed, it will go into effect on January 1st. And towns would be required to submit their initial plans between June 1st of 2028 and June 1st, 2029. And the bill had several components. Another section of the bill bans hostile architecture, which is defined as urban designs that discourage people experiencing homelessness from sleeping in public places. The bill also creates a new program for first-time home buyers. Under the plan, potential home buyers would be able to set up a new type of savings account for use in buying a home in the state. Contributions to those accounts would carry certain tax benefits. These benefits would be available to people making under $125,000 if they're a single person, or $250,000 for a couple. Senator Richard Blumenthal says a new Trump administration rule could lead to Connecticut losing $64 million and put 6,100 people at risk of becoming homeless. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development cut funding from its Continuum of Care program last night. The program partners with local organizations to connect people experiencing homelessness to housing resources. That will now be moved to transitional housing assistance with some work or service requirements. Now, this all comes as state leaders say Connecticut receives more than $94 million through this program.
If this policy change goes forward, the cap was 90%, now it's been reduced to 30%, and the money will be used instead, in effect, to criminalize homelessness.
When you look at the price tag of preventing homelessness or keeping somebody stably housed, particularly with wraparound services, that is incredibly much more cost effective than allowing somebody to stay outside and then criminalizing them and having that be a law enforcement issue.
And this policy change is catered to President Trump's executive order ending crime and disorder on America's streets.